So I'm Brad Peck. This is my wife Heather, and I'm a nurse, and she is a kindergarten teacher. And we have 3 kids. 2 of them are adults now. Our oldest is 22. The middle is 19, and Emma, who's our youngest, is 15.
16.
16. Heather and I were not raised in the church. We were both raised Catholic. And so we have been intentional about trying to raise our children differently from the way that we were raised. At New City, I serve in multiple areas. First and foremost, I serve with the students, and I'm a small group leader once a month with the middle schoolers. I also serve in first impressions, so we greet at the door, and we have lobby duty, so we mingle.
We also work in the cafe, make coffee.
Yep, we're coffee makers.
And we help out with starting point.
Yep, and also we're an elder family.
So I would say that the biggest takeaway is that you live your life with your kids. You're doing life with your kids. And we are using the gospel as our filter, right? So when questions come up, which are always when you're driving down the road in the car and you're trapped, they're going to ask you deep life questions, and take the time to answer those questions. Take the time to dig in. I think our goal has always been to point them to Jesus. And sometimes as a parent, you have the answers, sometimes you don't. So then we're going to dig in, right? But I think most importantly, we're trying to live our life like Jesus and point them to Jesus too when questions come up. Anything else?
Yeah, I feel like that the answer to that question is actually morphed throughout our parenting experience. Early on, the way that the gospel affected our parenting was finding purposeful occasions to bring Jesus into what we were doing as parents. And it was simple with the kids when the kids were little, because it was more about stories, maybe devotionals, family time.
We have done a lot of things to do that very intentionally. And I would say when we first found out we were pregnant with the first one, part of that was, how are we going to parent, and how is that going to look different? Mm-hmm. We both grew up not knowing the Lord, not in Christian homes. So how are we going to raise our kids so that they love the Lord? And part of that really is building relationships with them, so that you're developing a trust with one another. So we were super intentional, and I think some of the things that we took away that we would probably recommend that other families do too is you have to have fun. We spent a lot of years being broke and being creative on how are we going to have fun. So one of the things that we did was we would lay the kids down at night, and they wouldn't know when we did this, and we would bust in their rooms after about 10 minutes of them being in bed and say, ice cream run. And so we would literally load up the car, they're in their PJs, and we would go have ice cream. We also, one of the other things we love doing as a family, because we're trying to think, how do we get them to focus on serving others? Like, how do we serve others as a family, and how do we make that fun and exciting? And one thing that we did as a family often was we would ding dong ditch people, which wasn't in the negative connotation that it sounds like, but we would go to the dollar store and we'd make little gift bags. So there'd be like popcorn and candy and, different things like that are all pre-wrapped. And sometimes we would ding dong ditch strangers. Sometimes we would plot out the families we wanted to bless. But the goal was that we would not get the credit, right? So the kids would be the ones in charge of like putting the package on the porch and ringing the doorbell or knocking on the door and running away and not being caught.
Right? And they were into that.
Totally like into it.
Flat out running like the police are chasing them.
Yes. And often then on their birthdays, we would be like, what do you want to do for your birthday? And sometimes we'd be like, can we ding dong ditch people? And so that was a blessing, that it wasn't about them. It was, how do we
Right.
bless
So
others?
it's about them somewhat, but
Yeah.
it's still an out. We're out blessing other people, and we want that to be fun as well.
Another thing we did, because like I said, we were broke for most of their childhood, we would plan like staycations, but we wouldn't tell them. So it would have a higher level of excitement where we might wake them up in the morning and go, guess what? Dad took off work today and we're going to Deanna Rose. Like just doing something simple as a family and making it exciting. And we kind of explored Kansas City that way. And it just was always the kids enjoyed the spontaneous trips and things that we did that way. So we were intentional about planning. To the kids, they probably perceived it as all spontaneous, but
Right.
but it was being intentional of, it's time for us to plan something, or even just reading your kids. There are times that one of the kids maybe is feeling disconnected in the family, and so how can we build them up? So like one of our kids loved ding dong ditching, and so there'd be times that I just know he needed a ding dong ditch night, or somebody had a bad day, so it really needs to be an ice cream run night, or we need to do a game night and just hang out together because life has been busy and we're playing sports and different things like that. But we would talk and touch base and plan things intentionally.